What's going on, guys? Billy here, and today I'll be letting you know what I think of the DJI Mavic Air after 1 month. I've had a ton of time to put this drone through its paces, and my overall opinion of the drone is positive. I really do like it a lot. I was on the fence about the design when I first saw the leaks, but once I got it in my hands, my mind had totally changed. Now, just like all of my other in-depth review videos, I like to break it up into parts for your viewing pleasure. Check the timestamps in the description if you'd like to skip ahead. To start things off, I want to take a look around at the body of the Mavic Air. So the shell comes in 3 different colors: Arctic White, Flame Red, and Onyx Black, which I opted for because I think it blends together with the secondary black and gray colors a lot better. Now, when you hold this thing in your hands, you'll get a feel for how small it is, especially when you look at it from the side. This thing is thin, making it even easier to travel with. Once unfolded, the drone is still crazy small. It's got legs on the front to move the camera up and away from the ground, which house the antenna also to get them away from the body and other components. As I said at the beginning of this video, I really wasn't a fan of the design to start with, but now I love it. It's slim, it's sleek, curvy. I mean, really, it's a good looking drone, but there is one thing I have to complain about, and that is the battery placement on the underside of the drone. It's on the bottom of the body. With DJI, they like to place the power button for their drones on the battery itself, so you can use it to power other things, which is a nice touch, but in this case, you have to hold the drone to turn it on, and then place it down before its calibration begins. I know it's super picky, but it's just one thing I really wish they tweaked in the design. Stepping away from the design, we also have some obstacle avoidance sensors located around the drone to help us not run into anything. A pair of these sensors are on the front, bottom, and even on the back, which is new to the Mavic series, so we have 3 total ways of obstacle avoidance. Also located on the bottom of the drone is a pair of vision positioning sensors to keep the drone stable during flight. Now, this drone is not all good looks with its great design, but also packs a punch in the performance category. With all of the newer DJI drones, they now feature Sport Mode, which allows you to turn the obstacle avoidance sensors off and get the most speed out of your drone. Check this out. The thing's quick. So with an advertised top speed of 42.5 miles per hour in sport mode, this thing can actually go faster than the Mavic Pro. It can outperform it in sport mode, and it can hang in there with some of the Phantom 4 series of drones, and it totally blows the spark out of the water. Now, I was looking at some of my flight records through my DJI Go 4 application, and I noticed that my top speed is 45.4 miles per hour. That's really not that bad. Now let's move away from sport mode and into P mode, or regular mode, which is a lot more practical for filming and taking pictures. The speed in regular mode is still great for taking more dynamic shots like low, fast-moving ground shots or fast-paced point-of-interest shots to keep up with high-tempo music. Just to make a quick comparison, when I'm flying around with the Spark, I'm really unimpressed with the performance. Like, I feel like I'm being held back just hoping it'll go faster. That's one of the reasons why I always turn to the Phantom 4 Pro. I mean, not only is the camera great, but also the performance is very useful. It's quick, it's agile, and also that flight time is great, but that's a whole nother topic of discussion. Anyway, with the Mavic Air, I'm very impressed with the performance, being able to zip around from spot to spot, taking pictures, taking videos, or just going outside and flying around in sport mode for fun. Moving on, I want to discuss an area that's most important to me when reviewing a drone, and that's the camera. The specs on this camera are really nothing to be blown away by on paper. I mean, the sensor is 1 by 2/3 CMOS sensor with 12 effective megapixels, a locked f2.8 aperture, 4K video recording at 30 frames per second, which seems like it will be the standard for cameras moving forward. There is one cool upgrade to the Mavic Air, and that is being able to shoot super smooth, slow motion video at 120 frames per second in full HD or 1080p. They also improved the bitrate when shooting in 4K to 100 megabits per second, which is something found in the camera on the Phantom 4 Pro. Like with all cameras, I could sit here all day long and throw specs and numbers at you, but the only way to tell if a camera is actually good is to use it. Now, I've had a lot of experience shooting with the Mavic Air, but basically only when there was snow on the ground due to the unfortunate weather that we've been having here in Pennsylvania. I even took this thing all the way up to Minneapolis, so I drove halfway across the country and got to fly this drone a ton. If you want, I'll link you to some cinematic videos I made using the Mavic Air down in the description so you guys can get a better look at the quality of this camera. So, my overall opinion of the Mavic Air's camera is that it's great. While it may look a lot like the Spark's camera, the camera itself is actually held by a 3-axis gimbal instead of a 2-axis gimbal and shoots video in 4K. I really can't wait for the summertime when it's green outside and there's no snow and I can continue to push the Mavic Air's camera to see what I can shoot with it. Moving away from the drone for a second, I want to focus on the remote controller, which is literally identical to the ones used for the Spark and Mavic Pro, but comes with one incredible feature: removable sticks. For the longest time on my drones, I had to use use this little stick protector thingy, which, don't get me wrong, works great, but it still is just another thing I had to worry about bringing with me. And now being able to remove the sticks entirely from the drone and even giving them a small spot for storage makes it that much easier to travel with. Other than my obsession with the new removable sticks, this remote's design is just so perfect. There's a reason why they haven't switched anything up since the original Mavic Pro. The one thing I will complain about is the battery life, and I've been kind of complaining about this on and off ever since the original Mavic Pro, I guess over a year ago, it was released over a year ago. But anyway, if I fly something like the Phantom 4 Pro, I can literally fly my drone every single day for 2 to 3 weeks and not have to charge the remote, like not have to worry about it whatsoever. Whereas if you're going to be flying something like a Mavic Pro, a Spark, or the Mavic Air, and you have basically that same exact controller, it's only going to last you about 4 or 5 flights. One key difference between the Mavic Air and Mavic Pro remote is the screen in the center, which is not there on the Mavic Air, and that is just a way for them to kind of save money because this drone is considered as a step down from the Mavic Pro, although I'm sure some of you will disagree with that. Anyway, I missed that little screen. It's super helpful on the Mavic Pro, so I guess if anything, we would have to compare this remote to the Sparks just because of the functionality and the location of the buttons. Alright, so I feel like we've been ripping through these categories pretty quickly, and while I feel like I've done a pretty good job at giving you guys some of my thoughts on the Mavic Air and also touched on a lot of the different categories, I quickly want to go over some of the miscellaneous specs that are important but didn't really fit in the categories of the video. First up is the battery, which holds 2,375 milliamp hours, giving us an advertised flight time of 21 minutes. I myself have never broken 20 minutes of flight time, but usually when I'm up in the air, I rip around in sport mode from spot to spot as I'm lining up my shots, so it's understandable. Overall, I really am impressed with the battery life of the Mavic Air. It's nothing like the Mavic Pro. That thing can stay up in the air for a long time, but it's a lot better than the Spark. I feel like on the Spark, I'm constantly feeding it batteries. Next up is the range of the Mavic Air, which is set at a maximum of 4,000 meters or 13,123 feet, which is also converted to 2.5 miles. That's not as long as some of the other drones like the Mavic Pro or the Phantom 4 series, but I think it's actually pretty much perfect. I mean, I never like to fly my drone too far away as I feel like it's a waste of battery life. I like to stay local and get all the shots and videos that I can get. Now, will you actually get 2.5 miles out of your Mavic Air? Maybe if you're in the middle of a desert with absolutely zero interference, but it's likely that you're probably not going to get the full range of the Mavic Air. The final miscellaneous spec regards the transmission system, which is over a Wi-Fi network operating at 2.4 and 5.8 gigahertz. And I know so many people out there said this would be the reason they wouldn't buy the Mavic Air, but honestly, it's not that bad at all. Remember that the maximum range of the Mavic Air is about 2.5 miles, and I have no problem getting some really good distance out of this drone, especially living in a congested area with a lot of interference from other devices such as wireless routers. Alright, so now I want to go over some of the new features added to the Mavic Air, which are software improvements that are specific to the Mavic Air right now. Some of these could be seen in some of the older drones, like it might trickle over to the Mavic Pro or let's say the Spark, but for now, these are specific to the Mavic Air as sort of a selling point for DJI to push this drone out to the market. First up is Smart Capture, which actually isn't anything new. It's just like gesture control on the Spark, but instead of using a 3D sensor on the front, it's able to track your movements fully through camera software, which is actually a pretty nice upgrade. It does a lot of the same things as gesture control, so you can take off from the ground by only using your hand. It can also follow your palm around either forwards, backwards, or side to side. It can take pictures and start or stop videos. It'll follow you in active track. I mean, really, you can fully control this drone with just your hands if you wanted to, but I think we all know that using a controller is the best way to go. Next up is Quick Shots, which again is nothing new. We've got Rocket, which flies straight up above your subject. We've also got Circle, which just flies a simple circle around your subject. Next is Helix, which is an advanced version of Circle as it sort of flies upwards and backwards at the same time. Finally is Droney, which is one of the most classic drone shots as it flies backwards and upwards at the same time to reveal what's around you. Now those 4 quick shots are available on both the Mavic Pro and the Spark, but this time around we've got 2 new quick shots added, which are Boomerang and Asteroid. First up is Boomerang, which begins in front of your subject and then flies behind while increasing its altitude to reveal what he or she is looking at. It comes to a slow stop and then increases its speed and decreases altitude to come back to its starting point right in front of the subject. Next is Asteroid, which starts out in front of your subject and then flies upwards and backwards into a 360 panoramic picture. This quick shot, it's awesome, it's very unique, and it's perfect to share with your friends and family through social media. Now the way that this works is that it makes its way backwards upwards and up into the sky, and once it's reached its peak altitude, it will spin around and take photos to stitch together to make the final product that you see on the SD card. These two new quick shots are pretty cool, and it just shows how smart the Mavic Air is by being able to take these nice predefined cinematic actions with just the push of a button. I really hope down the line they add some new quick shots not only to the newer drones coming out, but also the older ones like the Mavic Air, Spark, and Mavic Pro. Moving along, we have an improvement in Active Track, simply called Active Track 2.0. It can identify up to 16 different people within your frame, which is really impressive. When using Smart Capture along with my mom, you'll notice there's a green dot hovering over us, so whenever Active Track identifies a subject, it is marked by this green circle. Within Smart Capture, you can simply switch which subject the drone tracks by switching who holds their hand up. This is a great feature to have if you are following multiple people around, and is definitely a significant upgrade in the progressive world of autonomous drones. Finally, we've got APAS, also known as Advanced Piloting Assistance Systems. So for now, we'll stick with APAS because that's a lot easier to say. Now we can turn this on by tapping on the icon on the left side of the screen, and you'll notice at the top, the mode switches to APAS. Anyway, this is basically an upgrade to the software behind the obstacle avoidance sensors, so rather than coming to a stop when it encounters an object, the Mavic Air will passively avoid it by changing its course, whether that be up, down, or to one particular side, it'll do it. Even if you're flying backwards, the drone will make its way over the obstacle, which I find pretty impressive. I think that this is definitely a step in the right direction, but it's very limiting. The drone flies slower in this mode, which I understand it needs to analyze and see all the different objects that's in front of it, but I hate when my speed is limited, so I'd rather the drone just fly like it usually does and come to a stop when it encounters an obstacle. Granted, this is the first iteration of APAS, and I'm really excited to see how it evolves in the future. So now that we've covered almost every little angle about the Mavic Air, let's talk about how it compares to some other drones on the market. Specifically, DJI drones, the Spark, and Mavic Pro are really close in terms of specs to this drone, which could make it a hard choice to choose between. Right now, the Spark is priced at $399, originally $499. The Mavic Air costs $799, and the Mavic Pro comes in at $999, although a lot of different websites have it priced differently. I've even seen Amazon drop it down to $750, which is lower than the Mavic Air, which must means they're clearing house for a new drone. Anyway, these three drones right now are some of the hottest on the market, and it'd be hard to choose which one is for you. Now, if we were trying to compare the Spark and the Mavic Air, the Mavic blows it out of the water in every aspect. It has a 4K camera, 3-axis gimbal instead of a 2-axis gimbal. It's faster, has a longer flight time, the remote controller has removable sticks, and has internal storage. I mean, it is literally better in every category. Some would say that the Spark is smaller, thus easier to travel with, but I would disagree because it is an odd shape, and without those bendable arms, it makes it so awkward to put in your bag. Now, if we change things up here and quickly compare the Mavic Air to the Mavic Pro, things start to become a bit more tough. The Mavic Air does things better than the Mavic Pro and is supposed to be a grade below it, but in the Mavic Pro's defense, this thing is a year old and the Air is brand new. Anyway, the Mavic Air has a few things going for it, like 4K video recording at 100 megabits per second and 1080p video recording at 120 frames per second, so the camera is overall better, a lot better if you ask me. The Mavic Air is also smaller to make it easier to travel with, and even though it's smaller, it's actually faster by 2.5 miles per hour, so 42.5 miles per hour instead of 40 miles per hour in sport mode. The Mavic Air also has a lot of software enhancements and features over the Mavic Pro, such as Smart Capture, APAS, Active Track 2.0, new quick shots. I mean, really, there's a lot of these new features that would make people want to get the Mavic Air over the Pro. Some of these could be added to the Mavic Pro in future software and firmware updates, but as of right now, they are specific to the Mavic Pro, or I'm sorry, specific to the Mavic Air to give it sort of a selling point over some of the other drones. The Mavic Pro certainly has some things going for it, like longer range, longer flight time, the built-in screen on the remote to read the flight telemetry, and it also uses the OcuSync transmission system instead of Wi-Fi, which won't experience as much interference. So, as you can see, these certainly have benefits to each, but really the Mavic Pro is dated at this point, and I'm sure the newer version, whenever it comes out, is going to have the things that the Mavic Air has, and more. So there we have it, guys. My final thoughts on the Mavic Air are through the roof. I really do like this thing. You probably got that vibe throughout this video, as I really don't have many bad things to say about it. And although it may seem like the Spark Pro instead of something that belongs in the Mavic series, DJI has almost every area covered in the drone market. They have a partnership with Rise with the small toy Tello drone. They have the Spark for new pilots looking to get some good power and quality out of a pretty inexpensive package. The new Mavic Air comes in next for the people that want more power than the Spark with upgrades in almost every single aspect. project. Then comes the Mavic Pro for those who want more of a professional grade drone with some serious power, and after that is the Phantom series and then the Inspire series, but you guys get the point. DJI right now has a serious hold on the drone market with all these different types coming out. It really suits the need of anyone looking to buy a drone. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have a Mavic Air, be sure to comment down below what you think of it and how you're liking it so far. And if you don't have one and you're looking to get one, be sure to click that link in the description and I'll take you over to DJI's product page. But guys, hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, I'll talk to you later. Peace.